Joining me live now is the Superannuation and Financial Services Minister, Jane Hume. Jane, good to see you. Do you want to see Alan Tudge back in the ministry?
I certainly do. In fact, I think Alan Tudge has been an excellent education minister. He's serving his constituents in Aston exceptionally well. I don't think there was any surprise to see him out there at pre-poll. That's where most of my colleagues are right now, out there talking to their constituents, talking to voters, explaining the government's economic plan and making sure that they understand that there is a clear choice at this election, a choice between a government that has delivered record low unemployment and a strong economy, and an unknown quantity in Anthony Albanese, who clearly does not have an economic plan, in fact isn't across even the most basic economic statistics, including unemployment,
is the Treasurer going to lose his seat?
And now, of course, he's trying to ride roughshod over the Fair Work Commission and enforce a wage rise that may well disrupt the economy.
We'll get to that. Is the Treasurer going to lose his seat?
I think Josh Frydenberg, who is also out there on pre-poll every day, not taking a single vote for granted, is going to retain his seat. The people of Kooyong, who he has served very loyally for more than a decade now, understand and deserve a minister in a government. They don't necessarily want somebody who all they can do is shout slogans and sling mud from the sidelines. The people of Kooyong deserve a minister in the government, somebody that can actually affect change, somebody who's in the room where it happens. And they can't get that with an independent. They won't get that with an independent, and that's why they'll support Josh Frydenberg, who has delivered for the people of Kooyong for more than a decade now.
All right, let's talk about the minimum wage. Does the government want to see an increase in the minimum wage?
The government wants the Fair Work Commission to make its decision on the minimum wage free of coercion, free of being ridden roughshod by Anthony Albanese, who clearly doesn't understand that the Fair Work Commission is supposed to be independent. Just like the RBA is independent when it makes its decisions about interest rates, the Fair Work Commission should be independent when it makes its decision about the minimum wage, and it should take into account all sorts of factors, not just the headline inflation rate, but also underlying inflation, understanding what it is that's driving temporary as opposed to permanent increases in the cost of living, but also the broader effects on the economy. We know that businesses have come out and said that an increase to the minimum wage that's in line with inflation, as Anthony Albanese has said, would be disastrous for the economy. It would actually cruel jobs, not create them, and it would push up the cost of living. So this is a disastrous announcement by Anthony Albanese. We've seen Jason Clare and Christina Keneally, and now I saw on your show Amanda Rishworth come out and try and clean up the mess that Anthony Albanese is leaving behind him. He clearly has no economic plan. He's making it up as he goes along.
Okay, but if you're so concerned about the cost of living and you're saying a 5.1% increase would be so damaging to the economy, what the Prime Minister and what you've been saying for months about the cost of living is not true.
The cost of living is going up. We know that. People are feeling it in their hip pockets. But the most important thing is that there are plenty of jobs out there, that we have record low unemployment.
But you don't want wages to increase in line with inflation.
So that people are keeping
right?
more. And because we have tax cuts to ensure that people keep more of what it is that they earn. Not only that, but this, the recent budget, the coalition's budget, announced a series of measures to help people with the cost of living pressures. Now, we know that people are feeling it right now, and that's why things like changes to the PBS to make sure that medicines are more affordable, $420 low-income and lower middle income tax offset that's available just at the end of this financial year, plus costs to fuel excise that'll feed into family budgets to the tune of around $30 a week. And of course, those payments to pensioners are so important. Plus the expansion of the Commonwealth Seniors Health Card, that will give people on pensions and more older Australians access to things like discounted utilities as well. That's how we address the cost of living pressures. We want to make sure that people don't feel the effects of those interest rate rises, inflation rises in their hip pocket. Many of those will be temporary. Some of them are caused by overseas factors, the war in the Ukraine, increased freight costs, a hangover on supply chains from COVID-19. But in the meantime, we want to make sure that people are, have alleviation, have relief from those cost of living pressures, but at the same time, we have to make sure that the economy stays strong, that there are more jobs in the economy. 1.3 million more jobs is what we've committed to over the next 5 years. The best way to cope with cost of living pressures is to make sure that you have a steady job.
Well, I think people can see, reading between the lines here, is that you and members of the government are saying, well, we want people to get a wage rise, but not in line with inflation because the economy can't handle it.
Well, we want the Fair Work Commission to make its decision, as it always does, without coercion, without a government riding roughshod over them, without Anthony Albanese breathing down the back of the Fair Work Commission's neck. It would be unprecedented for a government to recommend a wage rise of a particular amount. Or our job, of course, is to make sure that the Fair Work Commission has all the data available to it, both from the Treasury, also from the Department of Employment, everything that it needs to make a decision that is not just, that has to be sustainable, that isn't simply as basic as a wage rise in line directly with inflation. What happens if inflation goes up? What happens if inflation goes down? That wage rise would be there permanently.
Well, the RBA says it's going to go to 6% this year. So let me put it to you this way. If the Fair Work Commission came back and said an increase in the minimum wage of 5.1% is going to happen, would that put inflationary pressures on the economy?
You don't need my opinion on that. You only need to look at businesses' opinion. You need to look at economists' opinion. They're the ones that are saying a 5.1% wage increase would have a detrimental effect on the economy, that it would in fact reduce the number of jobs that are available out there, that it would be an unnecessary and unsustainable pressure on employers, and that it would in fact push up the cost of living, not decrease it. So that's a basic economic argument that's being made by economists, that's being made by employers and employer groups that are out there. Anthony Albanese clearly doesn't understand even those basic economic factors, and he certainly doesn't have an economic plan to grow jobs and to grow the economy.
Jane Hume, thanks so much.